dialogue relevant to the issues of today. We value vibrant debate and discussion about the direction and character of our society. We do not always agree. That's what keeps the debates alive. And we understand that when we discuss important issues with each other, we all leave better informed. Our ideas are sharpened and developed and perhaps changed. The Sunbird conservatives are committed to unwavering conservative principles and will strive to display, articulate, and spread these views at every opportunity in order to preserve America, honor our founders, and thank our veterans. Debates such as these help us bring those principles to the table and allow citizens to make informed decisions.
Okay, just a couple of words of explanation about the debate format. Each candidate will be allowed a 2-minute opening and a 2-minute closing statement. Each candidate will also have the opportunity to answer every question which is asked. And the questions will be asked in rotating order, changing who answers first. There will not be time limits for responses unless I feel like they're running on too long. And I have a little bell right here which I will ring, and that will bring to an immediate halt any words which are being spoken. And towards the end, each candidate will be allowed to ask one direct question of their fellow participants, and the other two then will be allowed to answer that. So I'll be watching my watch here so that we make sure that we have time for that at the end. Just a comment or two about the election context. The 16th district, as you well know, is largely, or to some extent, a new district created by the Redistricting Commission, but largely contains the old 18th district, which was represented by Democrat Dennis Cardozo. And so it is largely a district unrepresented by Jim Costa. And so in some sense, he is not, while he's an incumbent in Congress, he's not a literal incumbent of this district. The party registration is 48% Democratic, 33% Republican, but it's in the Central Valley, and so it is a potential swing district, which means that a Republican can potentially win this district, even though the Democrats have a registration edge, if they can appeal to enough independents and Democrats. The June 5th primary is an open primary, which means that all 5 candidates' names will be on the same ballot, rather than on 2 separate ballots, a Democratic or a Republican one. And so Jim Costa and Mark Garcia and Lorraine Goodwin, who is the other Democratic candidate, and Whelan-Tacherra and Brian Whelan's names will all appear on the same ballot. Whichever 2 candidates win the most votes, regardless of party, will compete against each other in the November general election. So in some sense, while the Republicans are running against each other, they're also running against the Democrats at the same time in this primary. Members of Congress play a dual role. They are delegates of their districts in Washington, and they're also trustees of the nation in Washington. And so once we proceed with the questioning, we'll start with a few questions having to do with their delegate role in Washington, and then we will shift toward their trustee role of the nation in Washington. First of all, the opening statements, and we will begin with Mark Garcia.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for coming out this fine day. I would like to inform you about your candidate today. As all of you are voters and very concerned, this is a very important election. This is a crucial time in our country's history. I was posed the question today, actually this week, excuse me, I'm a little nervous right now. I was posed the question earlier this week as I walked my district. A young lady came up to me and she said, Mark, she asked me, Mark, who are you? And I was taken back for a moment. I came back boldly and I said, I am a born-again believer, blood-bought, redeemed sinner in Jesus Christ, number 1. Number 2, I am a husband for 22 years to Angela, my wife right over there. Please say, wave to her. And I'm also a father of 4 children. 4 wonderful children. And I'm a son of 2 of the most amazing parents. Field laborers that raised me on the west side here in Fresno. I grew up working the fields, times where I worked in the summer months during picking season with my family. I have 1 to 6 boys. And we would, the late summer, September afternoons, I would often cry to my mother. Blood, sweat, and tears in the soil. And the tears would come out during the evening. Be, Mom, when are we done? And she would say, Mijo, we're done when we finish. When we finish. And so I remember those words today, and those are the same words that resound with me that have helped me to establish 2 businesses. I've been blessed with 2 businesses. I have my own farm. We make wine with the grapes. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Johnny Teixeira.
My name is Johnny Teixeira. I am your candidate that is going to beat Jim Costa. I've been endorsed by Andy Vidal, which is the man that had Jim Costa up against the ropes, doing the rope-a-dope, and Johnny Teixeira is going to be the man that's going to take him out. So, who is Johnny Teixeira? I'm a 36-year-old young man that's been around the block, as Charlie Waters said. I have been married 17 years to a wonderful wife, Lisa Marie, and I have 4 kids. I'm a dairy farmer. I'm a farmer now. Not a generational type. We've been in the business since 1955. I can attest here, I got some neighbors that are my farmers nearby me, and I was not handed a silver spoon, I was handed a shovel. And my dad said, here son, this is how you're gonna make your living. You don't get nowhere in life without hard work. Don't expect nothing in life to be easy. And I know this race is going to be hard. I know it's gonna be tough. I faced it already on a daily basis, running this campaign. This is my first time running. I've been back in Washington, D.C. with California Dairy Campaign, which I serve on the board, and with National Farmers Union. And I've seen firsthand how disconnected these people are. And I was like, and I look at this race, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not that kind of gentleman that follows politics all the time. I just know that America's in bad shape, and they need somebody that has a backbone, that is steadfast, unmovable in his convictions. There's a flyer on your table today. Inside there is my congressional clarity statement. In there, you will find out exactly how Johnny Teixeira is going to vote no matter what he faces in Washington, D.C. Because it is a cesspool. As Shannon Grove had let people know back at the Central Committee, the Central Valley Tea Party event the other night. Because without Christ being in your life, you have no moral basis and no background on what you're going to face in Washington, D.C. You'll be tossed in the wind like a piece of trash that you see out the west side, which is a barren desert from Jim Costa and his water policies. And I am your candidate that can beat Jim Costa. In 2005, I started my own welding business. I am an entrepreneur. I believe in hard work, and that's the only way you're going to get through life. And I have employed several hundred young people through my dairy, through my welding business, and realized that these young people are the future, and they need some leadership. And I am that kind of man that will give the leadership to the kids to show them, hey, this is the new role model, not Jim Costa. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I have some laryngitis, so people are going to have to excuse my raspy voice. It'll break every once in a while. I got into a heated debate with people about the San Joaquin River Association while I was sick, and that was a mistake. Very passionate about that. My name is Brian Whelan, and I'm running for Congress, as you all know. I was raised here in the Central Valley. I grew up farming pistachios and olives, and I've experienced that side of life. Through my mother's family, we're immigrants. Garcia no en español, because we are also from South America. The district is largely Hispanic, and I'm the only one living and running in the district. And to communicate with a lot of the constituents, it's going to be very important that there's someone that has a voice that can speak in Spanish to the people. The critical issues that we face here in this valley are ones that have largely been ignored by our career politicians. The crisis that we face is not a failure of the American spirit. It's a failure of our leaders to take reasonable and rational steps towards achieving goals. We live in one of the poorest districts in the country. We have the highest concentration of poverty in the country just around the corner. And I believe that we can do better, and I know we can do better. And I understand how to approach some of these problems with common sense, fiscally responsible, and sound logic. Some of the issues that we face here are simply common sense, and they don't cross party lines. It's not a Democrat or a Republican issue. Balance the budget. Spend within your means. Because of my common sense and my plans to solve these problems, the Republican groups of the Fresno, Madera, and Merced counties have endorsed my candidacy for Congress. I am the strongest candidate to take out Jim Costa. While my voice is weak right now, my resolve is strong. We must move this district forward. These are critical times, and I need your support. And I'd be happy to talk to you all afterwards, and I also have a flyer on the table where I have some of my positions that are outlined, how I will vote when I'm your congressman.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, now we will begin with the questions, and like I indicated, we'll begin with a few questions that sort of reflect the district delegate role of a congressperson in Washington, D.C., representing and advocating for the interests of this district. So the first question, more water for the San Joaquin Valley has been a perennial issue since the early part of the 20th century. With the valley expected to become one of the fastest growing areas in the state in the next 2 to 3 decades, it's becoming a more important issue than ever. Fighting for more water has been one of Jim Costa's trademarks over 30 years, first in the state legislature and now in Congress, and he identifies it as his top priority. So a two-part question, beginning with Johnny-Tacherra. Why should the voters of the 16th district choose you to be a freshman spirit carrier in the fight for more water rather than a senior spirit carrier like Jim Costa? And the second part, what would you do to try and get more water that would be different from or more successful than what Costa or your two opponents would be able to do?
Well, being a farmer, this affects me firsthand in my livelihood. Where I'm right across the other side of the river where the Western Water District is, where they were heavily impacted by the water drought from Jim Costa. He might have been what he could say for water back when he was state assembly. That's what most farmers were for him. And as of late, he had come disconnected. I know that firsthand because I've been in his office in D.C. and tried to work with him on other policies as far as dairy. And for him to straight up tell me that he is not going to represent me no more because he almost lost the election, realized to me that he was not about what was right for our constituents in the 16th district and the 21st district and for water as well in the Central Valley. As far as working with, I know I can work firsthand with Devin Nunes. He has worked tremendously on this issue. Like I said, I'm trying to get up to speed on a lot of issues that are going on with the water. Being a farmer, I think, it's my livelihood. I will give everything I got to make sure that my farmers, my dairymen, the agriculture in general will survive. It will thrive because that is the economic engine here in the Central Valley.
Okay, and Bruce Whelan, why should the voters select you? I'm sorry, Brian. I'm sorry about that. And what specifically would you do that Jim Costa either hasn't done or that you would do better?
Water is a critical issue in this valley. Our economic engine is our agricultural engine. Everyone in one shape or another, whether you're a lawyer, a doctor, an insurance person, you have some tether to agriculture in this area because that's our baseline. Jim Costa has taken very flip-flop stances on how he will improve our livelihood and what he'll do with water. Back in 2009, when we were at a critical time, Jim Costa said one thing and voted another way. And you may see the anyone but Costa or Costa Pelosi Dust Bowl signs. That's because Jim was in a position to take a leadership role, one that he had to take to move our valley forward with water issues and didn't. My idea on how we address the water issue is a simple one. It's a common sense one. It's something that it goes back to the act itself. The Endangered Species Act was enacted in 1973. The first time that the act was ever examined by the Supreme Court was in 1978, and that was the Tennessee River Valley versus Hill case. In that case, the Supreme Court said, if the critical habitat or the endangered species are essentially in jeopardy, then we don't take into consideration the human species. From that point forward, whenever a group has come to a federal court, like here in Fresno, and said, hey, the smelt, or the blunt-nosed leopard lizard, or the fairy shrimp, they're in jeopardy, then the judge is obligated to say, yes, they are, and we can't move this project forward. In the instance of the water, and with the CVPIA groups, a lot of them had problems because of the delta smelt. Now, to resolve that issue in a long-term fashion, what I would propose is we would put balance into that act. We would say, you will consider the human species with legitimate environmental concerns. And then going forward, when groups try to put the kibosh on pumping or stop people from building their irrigation ditches because the blunt-nosed leopard lizard might live around there, we have the judge with the ability to balance the equity. How will this impact human beings? What are the environmental impact reports saying about this? What is the science saying about this? Right now, it's imbalanced. It's something that we need to restore balance to, and something that would help us long term. And that would be my idea, and that would be what I would advocate for. In addition to that, Jim serves on the Ag Committee. It would be my top priority to be on the Ag Committee. This valley needs someone that's going to be their voice, and agriculture is our engine, like I said. I want to serve the people and serve on the Ag Committee. Excuse my voice, this is really terrible, but those are my plans. Thank you.
Okay. Garcia?
Well, Jim Costa has used the water issue for many years as political revenue to get him voted back into office. And we just need to make a stop to that. Plain and simple. It's a simple solution. We vote him out of office, and we elect the most electable candidate with the district that is comprised of 48% Latinos, 41% which are registered voters. Having the appeal to go back and take the seat from Jim Costa will solve all of our problems, because I believe we're all in the same avenue. We're all looking at the same issues: more water storage, better water storage, appropriating the funds for that. And that's quite simple. Thank you.
Okay. So we have some idea there of some of the things that these individuals would do relative to trying to increase the water supply. Let me just ask a related question that doesn't so much focus on water, but still related to agriculture. All three of you have agricultural connections, as does Jim Costa, and he has supported crop supports, dairy price stabilization, reducing regulatory burdens, helping farmers meet air quality standards. Regarding the well-being of agriculture beyond water, what do you think is the most important thing that you as a member of Congress should try to do? And we'll start this time with Brian.
Congress needs to be in a position to support farming, both through water projects that I've just suggested with addressing the Endangered Species Act, improving water storage. We need to take positive steps towards building the Temperance Flat Dam. That's been a project that's been held in abeyance for a long time. In addition to that, we need to take a hard look at some of the subsidies that farmers receive, and that maybe they're outdated. The farm subsidy programs that were brought about during Franklin Roosevelt's time were a temporary solution to deal with an emergency problem. And during that time, 25% of the workforce in the United States was either employed on a farm or was a farmer. Now that percentage has been drastically reduced, and by and large, those that benefit from these subsidies are a lot of folks in the Midwest that are essentially receiving additional welfare. What we need to do is we need to examine the insurance subsidy programs. Right now, we spend about $3.34 for every $1 that we pay out in insurance claims, and that's all subsidized by the government. The government is taking on the risk. We're spending billions of dollars to hedge these risks that really benefit a small group of people. We We need to have an insurance program in place, but we need to have one that's better and more manageable. And I think that taking a good look at the insurance programs, being in a position to support the farms, but also being in a position to do it with common sense without wasting a lot of money is really a long-term best interest of everyone approach.
Okay, Mark?
Beyond water,
Yes.
we need to balance our budget. We need to cut spending. Stop mandates that are hurting small businesses. I run a small business and a farm, and 80% of my staff has been cut because of this, the overspending, overregulation throughout what Congress has done to us. This has been very, very abusive to many of our businesses throughout the valley, Central Valley here. And so by going in and just cutting the taxes and making it easier for small businesses to conduct business on a daily basis, I believe that would greatly increase our jobs here in the valley that are well needed. That's our number one priority, on top of fuel prices. When we're spending half of our paycheck just to put gas in for the week, it's absurd that we live in America that's like this.
Is there anything specifically directed to agriculture and farming per se?
Agriculture, well, fuel is directly related to agriculture and farming. And I would go after that. We need to drill more. We need to open the end more. There are things that can be done in Congress.
Okay, Johnny, the same question. Anything that needs to be done or that you would do with regards to agriculture beyond increasing the water supply?
It mainly, to me, it dovetails with the EPA on being a dairyman and a farmer. We are dealt with that on a daily basis with regional water and air pollution and regulatory rights on us that we have been hammered on, and it stifles business. And it's something we have to trickle our cost on down to the consumer. And being a farmer, we have accepted our subsidies and tried to maintain a living because of these regulatory rights that are forced onto us. And I'm for balancing the budget and cutting spending. And if it comes to the point of cutting farm subsidies, then so be it. Because in the meantime, Whelan-Tacherra is going to work hard to get government out of the lives of those that are trying to put food on the tables and trying to educate young people how to become good hard workers. And that's the role of Whelan-Tacherra, of what he can do for this 16th Congressional District.
Okay, thank you. Bruce is going to ask a question now, and it will go first of all to Mark Garcia.
You're all, I suppose, targeting the incumbent in this race, not exactly the incumbent from this new district. But what would you say about Jim Costa in terms of his political allies? I suppose, just off the top of one's head, you would say that his political allies are President Obama at the top, Nancy Pelosi in the Congress, the two senators from California, Dianne Feinstein and Barbara Boxer, all of them Democrats. So how, as Republicans, would you be able to make an impact in the Congress, noting that these positions of power are held mostly by Democrats?
Well, we need to retain the House, number one, and it starts with this district, with voting Jim Costa out. With the House retention, we would be able to pass some bills and also have those, as long as we were able to take back the Senate. And so, going forward, those would be the main objectives for the Republican Party, to go forth and show a strong force come June 5th, and then in November, take back the Senate, take back the House, and we can accomplish something. Otherwise, a vote for Jim Costa is a wasted vote with a House that is controlled by the Republicans. He'll never see anything passed or any legislature. So we need to get that message out there. That as long as we continue to fight for America and retain the House, and come November, we get to take back the Senate. I believe that's the start of it.
Okay, John?
Can you repeat the question?
The question has to do with the fact that much of the representation of California are Democrats. And outside of the House, which is now in Republican hands, and the 2 senators from California are both Democrats. So how will you get any leverage to move legislation through?
That's a lovely question. I thought that's what you asked, like I never asked.
It is great.
Because being on the board of the California Dairy Campaign, I have been in Boxer's office, Feinstein's office, Nancy Pelosi's office, and you're talking to a fence post. But in the meantime, you got to come across as a well-balanced young man that you can portray your message, that you are representing a slug of people, a great industry, as far as what I'm down there for farming and dairy, that you know what, you got to get your head on straight here, man, because we're going downhill. When I was talking to Diane Feinstein, and I was in 2009 and talking about how 300 dairymen were going out of business in California, this what she had to say to me was, I did not know that was going on in California. That is insane for her. The only reason why she is winning her election is because of the liberal votes from the Bay Area and from other parts here in California. It's not from the Central Valley. I know it's going to be a headwind that Whelan-Tacherra can face, though, because I have dealt with these people. And we have gotten other legislation passed through as far as the Dairy Security Act and other things in the Farm Bill that we had concerns with. It's kind of a bad word when you say compromise, because I'm not one of those kind of guys that like to compromise, especially when it comes down to my 4 core principles in my Congressional clarity statement. But that's one thing I will not fault on, as what my standards are. But in the meantime is to make it firm on which direction I am going and to persuade. It's about debate. It's about telling them this is what our constituents need, what the district needs, and what will better serve the people in the district.
Okay, and Brian?
Well, I kind of disagree with the notion that if you're a Republican in the state of California and a congressman in the state of California, you can't get something done. The House will be a majority of Republicans, so there will be a good opportunity for us to get some good things accomplished. It's going to be very important for our area. We need to take a step back and realize that Jim Costa is not going to be in a position to impact positive change. Last week he was successful in naming a post office, but aside from doing those kinds of things, moving our valley forward is not it's not going to be within the ambit of what he can accomplish by virtue of the nature of the House. The idea also has been suggested that he's a blue dog Democrat. Gosh, Dolly, he's going to be for us because he's conservative sometimes. He votes down the line with the caucus. That's a fact. And there are very rare and few instances when he doesn't. And also the suggestion that he can be the intermediary between Feinstein and us here in the Valley. Recently, not too long ago, I think it's about 2 weeks ago, he was at the Madera Farm Bureau, and the question was asked, Jim, we know you voted for H.R. 1837, the water bill. We know you voted for it, and we know that publicly you've also said that you're really against it. It was a safe vote. The president said that he is going to veto it if it comes to him. We need some water solutions, and that was Nunes's attempt and McCarthy's attempt to get some good work done. And Jim said, yeah, I'm against it, but I voted for it. It's a safe vote. And the people asked, well, Jim, are you going to talk to Feinstein and lobby on Feinstein and make sure that she takes that bill and champions that bill through the Senate? And he said, no, I'm not going to do that. So, whether or not he's a Democrat or a Republican or whatnot, he's somebody that's not in a position to impact positive change. And the notion that just because here in California we've got a lot of Democrats and we have fewer Republicans, nationally that doesn't hold true. And I know that we can, with the right amount of support, we can get great things accomplished and we can move this valley forward. And I know that Jim is not going to be in a position to do that. And the question about seniority and whatnot in the Ag Committee, Cardoza and Jim will be gone once I ask him politely to step down by having everyone vote for me. So I'll be in the senior position. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Question on immigration, one that comes from the audience as well as was on my list. In fact, there's a couple of them here from the audience. Immigration is an important issue in the Central Valley because of our you think is the solution to the presence of large numbers of undocumented aliens, and at the same time the shortage of agricultural labor? And why is your solution better than that of either any of your opponents up here or of Jim Costa? In other words, what should we do about the issue of immigration, and how do you as Republicans reach out to Latino voters? And we'll start with Johnny.
Another loaded question. That was a big mouthful you gave there. Several inches to go by. I'm not for amnesty. Being a farmer, I see these young men and women that they're hard workers, and they come here with a mindset for the American dream. I am a third-generation dairy farmer. My great-grandparents immigrated from the Azores, and you know what? We did it all through hard work. We did it the right way, went through the right channels, and we became legal citizens. And I believe the system we have now works. It does have loopholes. We need to make sure the visa system that we have is implemented correctly to bring in the right number of immigrants in here for the workers, for the jobs that we have for them, to not bring a surplus in of immigrants here that they have nothing to do. In the meantime, they're run amok here in California, living off the welfare system and everything else that we somehow seem to enjoy to give out freely. I believe in the hard work system, and these people love to come here for work, to make a living, because they know they can do it. And somehow we have, as Americans that were born and raised here, have lost sight of that. And I feel what they have to go through. I've seen what they have to do to become a citizen, the long paperwork and the system they have to go through. And some of these don't even have to become citizens, as long as they want to here to work and get their visas renewed, and or move on. I believe we got to secure our borders. And these are all things that Jim Costa has been failing tremendously on, and a lot of stuff that he don't even want to address because it's a touchy issue, especially being with the Democrats. They don't want to, he wants to win his votes. So he has to say whatever he has to say. And I think that I stand out on this issue when it comes to my other two candidates. When you read my congressional, statements and everything else and my issues on my website at johnnyforcongress.com, you'll see where Johnny-Tacherra stands on this issue.
Thank you. Brian, next.
Well, first of all, Democrats and Republicans alike both realize that there's an issue there. I disagree. Excuse me. I disagree with Mr. Teixeira about how Democrats don't want to address the issue. You know, it's a problem. Feinstein, ironically, is trying to address that for the ag side with a Republican, Dan Lundgren. What we need is we need to work together, not against each other, and solve some of these critical problems here. And that's an illustration of Democrats and Republicans working together. We need to address the process. The process is broken. There's a real problem when you have a legal permanent resident here that wants their son or daughter over the age of 21 to come over from Mexico. It takes them 19 years for the visa to even be examined. So what happens in that period of time is that people will simply break the law. We are not a country built on law breaking. We are a country built on the rule of law. And we have a process that is unquestionably broken. If you are Mexican, Filipino, Indian, or Chinese, there are special discriminatory categories of visas for you, and it takes a lot longer, and that produces a lot of problems with people simply breaking the law. The immigration code is not the same as it was when our grandparents immigrated over here, and it's a problem that we need to be realistic and address now. What do we do with the 11 million plus undocumented workers that are working here and working in limbo? What are we going to do with them? Are we going to ship all of them back to their countries of origin? How are we going to pay for that? We need to fix the process. My idea and my vision, I believe it's a good one, it's one that's been espoused by other Republicans as well, is that we need to have a pathway to achieving status. We need to put those similar to the Bracero type program where they will work and earn something. That's part of our American legacy, is you work hard and you earn something. And that's what we will do under my vision, which is also one that's being proposed now, and some folks in the House and Senate are on board with this in terms of ag workers. But that is to have people for a period of time work hard. If they commit a felony or an aggravated misdemeanor, they are gone, and they will, at the conclusion of that time period, they will not be receiving entitlements, they will not be receiving welfare, and they will be paying taxes. At the conclusion of that time period, they will be legal. But there is an unquestionable problem. We need to strengthen the borders, but we need to address the real problem, and that's the immigration code. And I feel very strongly about it, being that my family is also a family of immigrants. My grandparents sponsored Mexican families to come over here also. And it's something that's very near and dear to all of us here in the Valley. We are a country of immigrants. 34% of our voters here are foreign born. So,
Mark? Okay, thank you. And Mark, same question with regards to what to do about the
Immigration.
issue. Yes.
Well, I love this country. My parents, I am Mexican American. My parents, we worked in the fields. My grandparents immigrated over here as well. And knowing how valuable this country is, and the stage that we're at, that America is growing. At this point, we need to secure our borders. This country is sovereign to me. It's where I was able to achieve the American dream. Unless we secure the border, we tighten it up, secure it, close it up, then we will not be able to fix the other problems. They do not matter. It starts in the border, on the border. Not only for terrorist entry, but in order to actually achieve and preserve the American dream for those that are here. And I do not support amnesty as well. I am a firm believer that hard work will get you places, and also earned citizenship should be the pathway. There are issues that our federal government hasn't looked at. I would say as a businessman that we look into the privatization of bringing the Bracero program, guest worker program back, make it more streamlined, more efficient, based on the public sector rather than, private sector rather than the government run. This would create more efficiency, create jobs, create a whole separate economy. And I believe the government has never had any programs, just look at the post office, that are efficient. So therefore my solution would be to create this with some of the great minds that we have throughout California, the technology we have. We can accomplish this. It's not that hard. It's something that can be done. But first and foremost, this country is sovereign. We need to protect the border. Plain and simple.
Thank you. Okay, Bruce has a question.
I'd like
Okay,
to
we'll start with Brian on this one.
I'd like to ask you about the tax code, because in your campaign materials, I think all three of you talk about the fiscal situation that the U.S. federal government is in, and that's pretty much at the top of your list as far as campaign issues. If you listen to the president, President Obama is talking about everyone paying our fair share, getting a fair shot, and so forth. How would you define that? What is fair taxation? I know that Johnny Teixeira's materials even talk about unconstitutional taxation. So what would you say about the current tax code, and do you have any proposals to change it?
Are there any emu farmers out there? No. The tax code is plagued with special interests that we have all these loopholes. For instance, emu farmers. We need to close the loopholes. We need to be in a position to empower our businesses, reduce our corporate tax rate to 25%. We want to encourage people to do well and thrive, and we want to be long-term oriented. This notion about paying your fair share and what's your fair share and the haves and the have-nots. This country is a country of haves and soon to have if you work hard. But this class warfare business that is being pushed forward by Obama and a lot of these very extreme leftists, that has no place in this country. That has no place in our history. We are a country of haves and soon to haves. With respect to what is fair, I believe that it is fair that all of us pay some amount of have some skin in the game. We need to be in a position to pay into our country, pay into what we appreciate when we live. There's a Persian proverb that talks about empires, and the idea was that in the beginning of the empire, if everyone pays a small amount, it will thrive. Towards the end of the empire, if a few pay a large amount, then it will collapse. We should not be an empire, but we should take into consideration the reality that we need to have skin in the game. We need to simplify the tax code. It's 5 times the size of the King James Bible. It takes about $197 billion a year just to figure out how to pay our own taxes. That's waste. Paul Ryan's plan is one that I would get behind. It's simplified and it's streamlined, and it's one that common people can understand. You can do your taxes on a postcard. There's no question that we need to simplify our taxes, and we need to do it now. We need to stop taxing businesses out of the country and out of the state.
Okay, thank you. Mark?
Well, I could have said it more better. Well, as a businessman and a farmer, I face taxes upon taxes. Unsecured property tax. Any of you know what that is? It's a tax after you've purchased your equipment that they tax you on every year. So we are a country that is just laden with tax after tax after tax burdens. These taxes are driving our businesses out. The small businessman that hires 80% of our employees throughout the nation. The large corporations now are being targeted. Now they're moving out. Why would you stick around here where you're going to eventually be a target revenue resource? Because there is nothing else left. So we do need reform. We need to simplify the tax code. Paul Ryan, yes, he does have a great simplified formulation for this. But speaking of Paul Ryan, I can't get behind a budget that he proposed that calls for $7 trillion more debt. Just can't see it. If we are true conservatives, we need to go back to our roots. Every tax that was implemented after Reagan, we must go after and repeal.
Okay, and Johnny?
And as Ronald Reagan said, government is not the solution to the problem, government is the problem. Every time we want to increase taxation upon us, we stifle the economy, we stifle the American dream. And that is what our taxation does right now. There's so many loopholes. I was with a gentleman back who said a couple days ago, and he was showing me a sheet. He's a loan officer, and he was showing me the amount this young lady made. He had crossed out all the names and stuff. I said, look at the amount she makes. Look what she's paying in, and look what she's getting back. And I was like, unbelievable. I said, here I am, a young man with a small business and entrepreneur, and I struggle on a daily basis because I'm trying to make an honest living. And how are we going to make the American public want to do the same when they can get more of a handout by doing nothing? And with that saying, that is why I promote that the Constitution itself specifically says exactly how much the U.S. House of Representatives, the Congress, should levy on the American public. And so far, we have become so far out of line on that stance on taxes. And with regulations and everything else, it comes down to just taxation on us. And all it does is stifles the economy, and it makes our products and everything go up, and it's a trickle-down effect. I am more for a fair tax. I've been learning, reading up on this type of system, more of a consumption tax that everybody pays into the same. I believe in everybody being on the same playing field. Everybody's got to pay their share to be an American citizen. In the meantime, everybody's on the same playing field. I don't have much more to say exactly, but that's where I stand as a small businessman. That it's tough, and I know that we got to have a change in the tax code. To me, it personally got me scrapped.
Okay, time for one more brief question here before each of the candidates has an opportunity to ask each other a brief question. So this will be the last one from us. In the June open primary, where 2 candidates with the most votes, regardless of party, get to compete in the November election. should the voters in the 16th district, regardless of what their party is, since any of them can vote for you, why should the voters in the 16th district choose you over the other two gentlemen that are sitting at the table? And we'll start with Mark. And just keep this answer really brief so we have time for you to ask your questions.
Well, it comes down to electability. As I mentioned before, we have a 48% Latino district, and 41% of them are voters. That is a powerful vote that I can appeal to. Garcia, Mark Garcia. I have worked in the fields right beside most of the Hispanics out there. Getting out there, most of them are registered Democrat. We need the vote, the swing vote, and convert them over to the right side. And I believe I bring that appeal to the table versus my other opponents.
Okay, thank you. And John?
Well, this 16th district is looking for a leader. Even the Central Valley itself is looking for a leader. They're looking for somebody that Johnny represents in business as far as agriculture, dairy, small businessman, and a family man. Something Jim Costa is not, and Brian Whelan is not a family man. Nor as these guys, well, except for Mark Garcia, as far as starting their own business, being an entrepreneur. Knowing what it takes to have a backbone, just to stand up and do something with their life. Because nothing in this world is going to come easily, and that was something my father and my mother taught me. The little family know that firsthand, that when they call on Johnny-Tacherra to do something, Johnny on the spot. Johnny's going to do it. And that's what Johnny's going to do in the 16th Congressional District. That's what Johnny's going to be able to do with the House Representatives and the Senate that don't want to work with him. And Johnny-Tacherra is going to make them toe the line. When we want to talk about being part of holding your feet to the fire, Johnny-Tacherra loves that. Because that he knows that people are paying attention, it's going to keep them accountable. And that's what's going to make America great again. To where my parents used to know it as, because we held our representatives accountable. Thank you.
Okay, Brian, why you over the other two to be in the November election?
I just want to stand up for this because I want to take on some of the statements that were made. I already represent a lot of people through this area, and I am part of a business and make business decisions and business owner, so that's false. Entrepreneur, I am an entrepreneur as well, and what I do in my professional life, aside from being involved in part-time winemaking, is I represent people and I fight for those people. I fight very hard for those people, such that even my opponents have helped me out because they know what kind of fighter I am. And this is going to be a battle, one that is going to require someone that has the fight in them to win. And for that reason, I've been supported by all the people in the district. All of the county Republican parties have supported me for this spot, to stand up and fight. It's very important. This district is a winnable district. There are 16 districts within the country that the Republican Party feels strongly can be won. This is one, but it's going to require someone that can stand up to the challenges and to the nonsense that will continue to happen and will continue to go forward, but it won't knock me off my game. We have critical issues here in the Valley, and we must take them on now. We are at a crossroads in our history and in our Valley. If we don't choose the right path, we will not have the same opportunities as we go forward. I am the only candidate who lives in this district, and consequently,
Okay. Now we're going to give each candidate an opportunity to ask a question that the other two will answer. And so we'll start with Johnny. A question that you would like the other two to answer.
On the Central Valley Tea Party website, Johnny-Tacherra is the only candidate that has endorsed the Tea Party 3 core values. Why have you two not?
I actually endorse the Tea Party.
Okay, and Brian?
I have my own pledge, and I have 7 points encompassing those of the Tea Party, so I've taken additional stances. I am for limited government, return to constitutionalism, and fiscal responsibility. Thank you.
Okay, and Brian, a question that you'd like to ask of the other two gentlemen at the table.
What specific plan do you have to improve our water problem here in this district? Can you please detail it for me?
Okay, Mark first.
Specific water plan, I do not have one at this point. I do know our water needs. I do know that we need more and better water storage. We need to find the great minds to actually
We do not do that when it comes to the livelihood that we do on our farm. We try to conserve every bit we got, and as a congressman, I know that we can work and do a better job on creating infrastructure for water, for dams, for storage, as compared to building a high-speed fill, something that is a waste of money, and it should be put to better use as far as helping the economy here in California.
Okay, and last of all, Mark, you have a chance to ask the other two a question.
My question would be, if either of you were to enter into Congress, how can we rely and have the confidence, what would we be able to stand on that you would not compromise the core values of the Republican Conservative Party?
Okay, John?
Go to my website, Johnny for Congress. Pick up my pamphlet. Read the Congressional Clarity Statement, constitutional purity, biblical values, equal justice, and free markets. That is what Johnny Tacherra will do when he's in Congress. That's how he will vote. That's how you will know exactly where Johnny Tacherra stands on a daily basis. When you get somebody that will be head-faced into a cesspool of people that want to destroy you and your values and your moral views, you got to have somebody that you know you can have faith in, somebody that has withstand that through business, through family experiences. You want a well-rounded person, and that is why you will know when you go to my clarity statement, something you can actually download to on Johnny for Congress and read that firsthand where Johnny Tacherra stands.
Thank you, Brian.
I also have a position outlined on my website. In addition, you can see on your tables there's a flyer. If you open the page, it's on the right-hand side, specific points that I will and will not do as your congressman. In addition, my phone number is 436-9488, and you can call me at any time and talk about your issues and make sure that you're represented, and I'll be your ear and your voice even when I don't have one right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, each of the candidates will have an opportunity to make a 2-minute closing statement, and we will begin with Johnny.
I know Mr. Whelan likes to throw out the fact that he's been endorsed by all 3 county committees. Well, when Fresno and Madera made their vote for their candidate, Johnny Tacherra was back in Omaha, Nebraska, working for the National Farmers Union, which he's a delegate. And I had to be back there working on dairy farm policy because I'm already representing the district. I'm representing the constituents in this valley. Johnny Tacherra knows what it takes. I'm sorry I wasn't there. I tried to make a stance with some of my people as far as, to make a showing that Johnny Tacherra was there. I don't know if that made an impact or not, but the fact of the matter, Johnny Tacherra is already working for this area. Johnny Tacherra knows what it's going to take, and money in itself will not win this race. It's a hard-working farmer boy. And thank you for your time, and thanks for coming out. I appreciate when I see young men and women and that will come out because they are concerned with what's going on here in America. Because that's what we are facing today, and that's why Johnny Tacherra is running for the 16th district against Jim Costa.
Thank you. And Brian.
Clock already started on this. Thank you all very much for coming.
Just a couple,
Thank you for the opportunity to listen and hear us. It's very important that you educate yourselves on these very important issues. I am humbled to be before you and have this experience, and thank you for having it set up at the Fresno Pacific University. It's going to be very important for this race that the person that advances is going to be a fighter, someone that will represent you and represent you well. And that's something that I do. I represent people from all walks of life already. I represent agribusinesses, I represent companies, I represent small businesses, I represent manufacturers, I represent farm workers, I represent truckers, employees, you name it, I'm there. I'm fighting their fight. I'm their sword or I'm their shield. But one thing is for certain, I always fight hard. And I will fight for you. And my fight has been demonstrated by how hard I'm out there hitting the campaign trail, meeting with voters, walking precincts, talking to folks. I've been appointed by the Board of Governors to serve on a statewide committee on access to justice. And what I do in that capacity is I examine the redundancies and inefficiencies within our court system. There are so many redundancies and inefficiencies within our federal government. It'll be a natural fit for me, who's somebody that applies the law and fights within the law, to make sure that we make intelligent and well thought through changes to the law that governs our lives here. And we are at a crisis. And it's because our leaders have failed us, but it's not because our American spirit has failed us. And I want to be your voice and your advocate to the American spirit, the indomitable spirit that we present and preserve our American dream and make sure that our future and our children's futures have the same great opportunities that we have right now. So thank you, and I thank you for your support, and you can see more on the website at whelanforcongress.com. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mark? Well, my faith is in God, and my shield is the Bible, number one. Number two, this country is in a lot of trouble. We're in a crisis. We are at a pivotal point right now. If we do not restore the core values that we once knew, that our founding fathers had fought and spilled their blood for, then we will not know this America as we know it today. And I want to make it clear that I am against every big government Republican as well. And when we, as I said before, when we praise a budget that adds $7 more trillion, the Paul Ryan budget to our, we praise that, that's not a concern. You shouldn't be allowed to call yourself a Republican. I have spent many hours just in agony of where our country's been leading us. And that is what has given me the fight, that's put the spirit of fire inside of me to run for Congress, to get out there and restore the American dream that I once knew, that I've been able to achieve, that my children may be able to achieve that, and generations that come, and your children. So I will not stop. I will not give up, shut up, or let up until I finish, as my mother said, Mark, when we finish. Thank you. I look for your vote on June 5th.
Thank you very much to Mark Garcia, Johnny Teixeira, and Brian Whelan for coming today and participating in this debate. And we trust that you will have learned more about their positions, their approaches, their ideas about what they would do if